They say the real surprises in life don't come with warning signs. They show up quietly in moments you'd never expect. For me, it was just an ordinary Thursday night. My husband had gone to bed early after a long day, and his friend stayed a bit longer to finish his drink. What he said before he left changed everything. It stirred something in me I hadn't let myself feel in years, and I've never looked at myself the same way again. But before we dive into this story, tell me, where are you watching from? I love seeing the cities that this little corner of storytelling reaches. Drop your location in the comments below. The living room was dim, lit only by the warm amber of a corner floor lamp and the last flickers of a candle I forgot to blow out. My husband, Thomas, had excused himself about an hour earlier, saying the wine made him drowsy. It was just me and Henry now, his friend since college, and a frequent visitor in our home. Henry was always easy company, polite, charming in that quiet kind of way. He never pushed conversation, but when he spoke, it was always thoughtful. He worked in publishing and had that soft, careful tone that made you lean in a little to catch what he was saying. Over the years, we'd shared dozens of meals and small talk, but never anything more than that. I adjusted my robe a little, suddenly aware of the way the satin clung to my skin after I sat down. The room wasn't cold, but there was something about the air, thick, expectant, that made me cross my legs a little slower than usual. I should probably head out soon, Henry said, swirling the last sip of wine in his glass. No rush, I said, perhaps a bit too quickly. You're welcome to finish your drink. He smiled, eyes catching the candle light. You always make this place feel like a retreat. Like the world stops a little when I'm here. It was a simple compliment, but something in his voice made it feel like more. I looked away, unsure how to respond, and reached for the bottle to pour him a little more. He let me. His fingers brushed mine when I handed the glass back, and the contact was brief, but it lingered. I always wondered, he said, settling deeper into the couch, how you manage to look so composed all the time. You've got this warmth about you, like you see everything, even when people think you're not paying attention. That made me laugh softly. Are you saying I'm nosy? No, he said, his voice lower now, more deliberate. I'm saying you notice things. That's different and rare. I felt my cheeks flush, not just from the wine. This wasn't the kind of conversation I usually had, especially not with Henry. Especially not when Thomas was just down the hall, likely already asleep. I think people underestimate you, he added. I've seen it happen. Even Thomas does sometimes. That pulled me up short. He noticed. He saw it. There were days, weeks, even when I felt like wallpaper in my own life. Smiling, organizing, remembering everyone's schedules like some well-oiled machine no one thought to check on. Henry's words didn't come with pity. They came with understanding and something else I hadn't expected. Admiration. Why are you saying this now? I asked. My voice wasn't defensive, just careful. Because I've known you for years and I've never said what I've thought, he said. And tonight feels like the kind of night that invites honesty. Silence sat between us for a few seconds, deep and charged. I leaned back, letting the couch absorb my thoughts. The flickering candle cast shifting shadows on the wall, and for a moment everything felt like a movie, too quiet, too perfect, too strange to be real. You ever think about what your life might have looked like if one thing had gone differently? Henry asked suddenly. All the time, I said, almost in a whisper. And that's when he looked at me. Not just asterisk at asterisk me, but asterisk into asterisk me. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even seductive. It was human, raw, like we were both standing on the edge of something unnamed, and neither of us knew if we should step forward or back away. I don't mean to cross any lines, he said, setting his glass down, but I think you deserve more than what you've been given. I've always thought that I felt the air leave my lungs, not because I was offended, but because deep down I had felt the same thing. I just never imagined hearing it from someone else. From him. Henry, I began but stopped. What was I going to say? That he was wrong? That I didn't feel seen for the first time in a long while? He stood slowly. I'm sorry. I should go. I probably said too much. I followed him to the door. My heart was thudding so loud. I was sure he could hear it. Just before he opened it, he turned to me. I meant what I said. You're remarkable. I hope someone reminds you of that more often. Then he left. I stood there in the doorway for a long time after the door clicked shut. Not because I was confused, not even because I was tempted, but because something had shifted inside me, something subtle but powerful. I wasn't just someone's wife. I was a woman who still needed to feel seen, heard, and remembered. That night didn't end with anything dramatic. No secrets exchanged. No rules broken. But his words, those stayed, and they started something I didn't yet understand. Something I couldn't ignore. The next morning, everything felt a little different. Not in any obvious way. Thomas was already in the kitchen, sipping his coffee, scrolling through the news on his tablet like he always did. The birds chirped outside like they hadn't witnessed anything unusual. The house smelled of toast and fabric softener. Normal, routine, ordinary. But I wasn't. I moved slower, more deliberately, as if every movement required a second thought, as if the night before had carved a small crack into my chest, and now I was trying to keep it from showing. "Did Henry get home okay?" Thomas asked, not looking up from his screen. I hesitated. "Yeah. He left not long after you went to bed. Good guy." He took another sip and added, "Maybe we should have him over again next week." I nodded, but my stomach tightened. I don't think Thomas saw it. Whatever it was that Henry had seen, the quiet effort, the unspoken weariness, or maybe he saw it once years ago, before life layered over it with routines and expectations. Later, while folding laundry, I found myself replaying Henry's words in my head over and over like a song stuck on repeat. "You deserve more than what you've been given." There was no malice in it, no arrogance. It was just true. I spent the day going through motions, cleaning, organizing, responding to emails. I even made a roast for dinner, one of Thomas's favorites. And the whole time I felt like I was watching myself from a distance, like an actress playing a part she'd outgrown. That evening, I stepped out onto the porch with a glass of wine. The sun was just dipping below the trees, casting everything in that soft golden hue that makes the world look more honest. I let the silence wrap around me. My phone buzzed. A message. "Henry *****. Thanks again for last night. Sorry if I said too much. I meant it all ****. I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't know what to say. Eventually I typed ***. You didn't say too much." "You said what?" No one else has had the courage to ***. I hit send before I could second guess this myself. He responded almost immediately. "That means a lot. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'd like that ***." And just like that, a door opened. I didn't walk through it. Not yet. But I stood in the doorway. The following days were quiet. Routine. But something had awakened. I started noticing things I had ignored before. The way Thomas barely looked up when I entered a room. The way I always reached for his plate first at dinner without even thinking. The way I adjusted my tone, my words, my presence to keep the peace. I wasn't angry, not really, just aware. And then on Saturday afternoon it happened again. Henry showed up unannounced but not unwelcome. "I was nearby," he said, holding up a bottle of wine. "Drop this off." Thomas was mowing the lawn, headphones in, oblivious. I invited Henry in, my voice steady, but my pulse anything but. We sat at the kitchen island this time, not the couch. The wine unopened. "I keep thinking about what I said the other night," he began, fingers drumming lightly on the counter. "I don't want to make things uncomfortable." "You didn't," I said. "You made me think." He looked at me, that same quiet intensity in his eyes. "And what did you think?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I turned to rinse out a glass that didn't need rinsing. I needed the movement. Something to do with my hands while my heart caught up. I thought about how easily I let myself become background noise, I said finally, and how strange it felt to be noticed. Henry stood, stepping closer but not too close. "You're anything but background noise. Urus, you've just been living in a house that doesn't always listen." The words made my chest ache. Before I could speak, Thomas's footsteps came up the deck. I turned quickly, heart racing. Henry caught my gaze. Another time he whispered, and just like that he was gone again. But the echo of his words stayed with me long after the screen door creaked shut. I didn't hear from Henry for almost a week after that. No messages, no surprise visits, no subtle glances from across the room at one of our neighborhood gatherings. And oddly, I missed him more than I expected. But the space he gave me wasn't cold. It was respectful, like he knew I needed to sit with my own thoughts before anything else. And I did. Each morning I caught myself watching Thomas from across the kitchen island. wondering if he could tell something had shifted in me. He couldn't. Or maybe he did and chose not to ask. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was just hollow, like furniture no one used anymore. One afternoon, while organizing old photo albums in the study, I found a picture of myself from nearly 20 years ago. Younger, yes, but more than that, alive. I was laughing in the picture, holding a picnic basket, eyes squinting at the sun. And standing just behind me out of focus was Thomas, his hand on my shoulder. We were happy then, or maybe we were just full of hope. That night, after Thomas went to bed, I sat in the same living room where Henry and I had last spoken. I didn't light a candle this time. I didn't pour wine. I just sat there, phone in hand, staring at our last message thread. Eventually, I typed asterisk, "Are you free tomorrow afternoon asterisk?" He replied within seconds. Asterisk, of course asterisk. We met at a quiet park on the other side of town, somewhere far enough that no one we knew would stumble across us. I wore a simple blouse and jeans, but still found myself checking my reflection in the rearview mirror more than once. He was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench beneath an old oak tree, a small coffee in hand, and that same calm expression I'd grown to recognize. When he saw me, he stood up, a soft smile on his face. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I," I admitted. We sat. The breeze danced through the leaves above us. Kids played in the distance. And for a moment we didn't speak. "I needed space," I finally said. "Not from you. From everything." He nodded. "I understand." I'd looked at him. "Henry, I'm not looking to blow up my life." "I'm not asking you to," he said gently. "I just want you to see that it's asterisk your asterisk life. Not a role you have to keep playing because it's what's expected." His words hit like a slow wave, soft but impossible to ignore. "You make it sound so easy," I said, voice thinner than I meant it to be. "It's not easy," he replied. "But it's worth asking yourself what you really want, and what parts of yourself you've left behind to keep the peace." I swallowed hard. My throat was dry. "I don't know what I want," I whispered. "That's okay," he said. "But whatever you decide, I want it to be asterisk your asterisk decision. Not mine, not Thomas's, yours." And in that moment, I felt something unexpected. Safety. Henry wasn't trying to fix me. He wasn't trying to claim me. He was holding a mirror up and asking me to look. We sat there a while longer, talking about nothing and everything. Childhood memories, favorite movies, the way the sky always looked different just before rain. And then just before we stood to leave, he looked at me and said, "No matter what happens next, I want you to know that meeting you changed me." I blinked back, the emotion rising in my chest. "You changed me too." We didn't hug. We didn't kiss. It wasn't that kind of moment. It was something deeper. And as I drove home, windows down, hair dancing in the wind, I realized something. I had spent so many years giving pieces of myself away to keep everything running smoothly. I forgot what it felt like to be whole. That night I stood in the mirror and studied myself, not for flaws, not to fix my hair, not to cover lines with cream. I looked at myself like a stranger I wanted to get to know again. And for the first time in a long time I saw her. Me. The morning after the park, I woke up before the sun. The house was silent, wrapped in that soft blue hush just before dawn. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor, my bare feet resting on the cool wood, heart heavy but clear. I had spent the last few weeks living in a quiet kind of conflict, torn between who I had always been and the woman I was slowly remembering. Not because of Henry exactly, but because of what his words stirred in me. He didn't pull me away from my life. He pointed me back to myself. Thomas stirred behind me. "Everything okay?" He mumbled, still half asleep. I turned to him, studying the face I'd slept beside for more than 2 decades. It was familiar, comforting in its own way, but also distant. Like we'd both been reading from the same script for so long we'd stopped listening to the meaning of the words. "Yeah," I said softly. "Just couldn't sleep." He nodded and rolled back over. That was it. Later that afternoon I made a decision. Not one that would shake the foundations of my life or shatter the image we presented to the world, but one that mattered to me. I invited Thomas to sit with me on the porch. Something we hadn't done in a long time, not together, not with intention. "I've been thinking a lot lately," I began, "about us." He looked over, guarded. "Is something wrong?" "Not wrong, just quiet. Too quiet for too long." He let out a breath and nodded slowly. "I know I haven't been very present." I guess I thought we were fine. I think we've been comfortable, I said. But comfort isn't the same as connection. Not for me. Not anymore. He was quiet. I'm not saying I want to leave. I added quickly. I'm saying I want to feel again. I want to be seen. Not just taken care of or needed, but noticed. Wanted. He stared out across the lawn, jaw tight. Did someone say something to you? And there it was. I could have lied. Could have protected him from the truth. But I was done hiding from my own feelings. Henry said something. Yes, but not what you think, I said gently. He reminded me of who I used to be. That's all. Thomas nodded once slowly. And who is that? A woman who still wants to feel alive, I said. Who doesn't want the best years of her life to be behind her? He looked at me, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in years. Maybe regret, maybe realization, maybe both. I never meant to make you feel invisible, he said, voice cracking a little. I know, I replied. But it still happened. He reached for my hand. Can we fix it? I let him take it, held it gently. Only if we're both willing to start over. Not just patch things, but rediscover each other slowly, honestly. And he nodded, not with certainty, but with willingness. In the days that followed, something shifted. Thomas began to notice things again. The way I liked my coffee, the way I tapped my fingers when I was thinking, the way I hummed while folding laundry. Small things but real, and I allowed myself to be open to speak my truth without apology. As for Henry, I didn't see him for a while. But one afternoon I found a small envelope tucked inside the mailbox. No name, just a card. Some people enter our lives as a whisper, not a storm. But sometimes a whisper is all it takes to wake a soul. Asterisk. There was no signature. Just a pressed flower tucked inside. I smiled. Henry had given me something more valuable than romance. He gave me a mirror, a quiet nudge back to myself, and though we never crossed the line, the emotional imprint remained, a gentle, powerful reminder that it's never too late to become who you were meant to be again. As I sat on the porch that evening, watching the sky melt into soft pinks and golds, I breathed in deeply. I wasn't chasing drama or change for the sake of change. I was chasing something far more sacred, myself. And I was finally ready to be.